Hello and thank you Pondi Lit Fest for this book session. Last time I was with you was in 2019 when I spoke about my book which had just released, Blood Island. Blood Island was an oral history of the Morichapi massacre that took place in 1978-79. This time I am with you to talk about my new book, Bengal 2021, an election diary. Bengal 2021 is a quick book on my impressions of the mood in Bengal before the elections. In a strange way, the two books are related. How is a book about an oral history of a massacre that took place 41 long years ago in a tiny island in Sundarbans related to my impression of what is happening in and around Kolkata in Bengal in 2020-21 related, you ask? Well, because both books talks about caste in Bengali society, caste in politics. As I said, Blood Island is an oral history of the Morichapi massacre. It talks to survivors who were in Morichapi Island. They were mostly Dalits. They had come from Bangladesh, now Bangladesh, at that time it was East Pakistan. They were sent to temporary camps in central India. It was known as the Dandakarana area. There they stayed for many years. The left, which was in power in West Bengal at that time, had told them that this is not something that should have been happening to them. They are Bengalis, they should be adjusted in Bengal, but they had come in large numbers. The government at that time could not accommodate them. But the left promised, left was in opposition, that when they come to power, they would bring these people back and they would rehabilitate them in and around Kolkata, in Bengal. The left finally came to power in 1977, but it completely went back on its promise. It did not accommodate these people who they had earlier reached out to, but they were adamant that they would come back to Bengal. They had saved some money in all those years that they were in Dandakarana, and finally they decided that even without left's help, they will identify a place, which they did. Some accounts say that it was the left that had, when they were in opposition, showed them that place. That place was Morichapi, a tiny island in the Sundarbans. So they came in large numbers to this island with the money they had saved in all these years, and they settled there. They made it. There was nothing in Morichapi. It was an uninhabited island. So they settled there, and they formed a township. There was a shipbuilding yard. There was a bidi factory. There was a school. There were lanes. It was a proper township that they developed over a period of 6 months. The left did not like that. They did not like the fact that even after they said no to these people had come on their own, and through their own entrepreneurship, through their own hard work, they had settled in an island inside Bengal. So there was first an economic blockade where they were not allowed to get food and water from neighboring islands. Police launches surrounded Morichapi, and there were people who died out of starvation and dysentery in those times. Then, due to a court order that economic blockade was lifted, the left unleashed unspeakable horrors on that island. It's almost like Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, what happened in that tiny island in the Sundarbans. The press reported a bit, but then there was complete clampdown and no stories came out of Morichapi. Finally, in May 1979, the island was cleared of all refugees, and those refugees were sent back, packed into launches, sent to the mainland, to Kolkata, and from there they were sent back to Dandakarana again. But between the economic blockade and May 1979, when the island was cleared of refugees, there were unspeakable horrors, as I said, that were unleashed on these islanders. There were stories of murders, rapes, bodies of babies flung into the river, and estimates from survivors who I speak to say that as many as 5,000, more than 5,000 people died during those intervening years of 1978-79. Now, both the islanders that I have spoken to and some of the researchers who have sort of researched on Morichapi say that this is an instance of caste discrimination in the left front government, in Jyoti Basu and in his cabinet colleagues. It is also reflective of the fact that Bengali society, which was aware, people, the talking heads in Kolkata, people who read newspapers, write in newspapers, watch plays, they were aware of that something like this is happening in Morichapi, because some reports did trickle out of the island, but and some people did talk about it, but the outcry that should have taken place when such a huge number of people were massacred, in terms of sheer numbers, the Morichapi massacre was far worse than what happened in 1984 and subsequently in 2002. It's not fair to compare one massacre with the next, but there is no doubt that Morichapi massacre was one of the worst massacres in independent India's history. It's also important to remember Morichapi massacre because it was an indication of how casteist Bengal society and politics is. The left has traditionally said, the left has always said that there is no caste in Bengal, and this is not something not just the left, Bengalis and people who look at Bengal from outside pride themselves about. They said that no, there is no caste in Bengal. Yes, there is no caste in Bengal in the sense that perhaps in and around Kolkata, in casual conversation, people do not bring out caste like they may do in certain other parts of the country, especially in the north, also in down south. But that does not mean that there is no caste in Bengal. Morichapi survivors who I spoke to for the book told me that they feel, and they strongly feel, that they were sort of dealt with in this way because they were from the lower caste. It's not just the survivors themselves. Some of the fantastic research work that has been done on Morichapi in Oxford and Cambridge, the researchers have come to the conclusion that it's an example of the left's caste bias. Not just the left, it's also an example of Bengali society's caste bias, because it was not as if people in Bengal at that time, people in Kolkata mostly, were not aware that something like this is happening. Yes, there were some protests, some writers and intellectuals, they did come out and they did talk about it. But when something like this is happening over months in an island in Sundarbans, there should have been far more protests. The government should have been, there should have been protests against the government. There should have been a far more hue and cry over an incidents of this scale, but it didn't happen. So people often say that Morichapi massacre shows that how casteist inwardly Bengali society is. Let's cut to an incident in 1992. Chuni Kotal, a Dalit Adivasi student, said that I can't take this anymore. She said this to her parents and she took her life. Kotal was the first woman graduate from the Lodha Shabo tribe, and she got a job as a hostel superintendent. But when she was going about her job, she had so many casteist attacks on her that she couldn't take it anymore, and she took her own life. Now cut to 2020, Professor Murmu of Jadavpur University put out a statement on social media saying that she does not agree with the UGC's decision to hold examinations during coronavirus. A student attacked her on social media, questioning her credibility to be a professor, saying she's a quota candidate and whatnot, and this created a huge ruckus in Kolkata and outside Kolkata. The point I'm trying to make is, from 1992 Chuni Kotal incident to 2020 Professor Murmu incident, caste has always been in Bengal. It is only now, perhaps truly, that we are talking about it so openly. Commentators from Delhi, journalists who are visiting Bengal are talking about caste. They're saying that the BJP is playing the caste card in Bengal. But the point is, even if it's being talked about now, it has always existed in Bengal. Bengali society has been casteist. If you had gone through the matrimonial columns, you would see that caste has been mentioned always. It's not something new. There has been caste discrimination. One of Trinamool Congress MLA candidates, Manoranjan Bapari, who incidentally is also a survivor of the Morichapi massacre, has told me that he has always been at the receiving end of caste, being a Bengali from the lower caste, from the Namashudra community, the Dalit caste. Manoranjan Bapari has in fact used the choicest of words for Jyoti Basu because of what he did in Morichapi. And he said that time and again, and Morichapi Bapari's life story incidentally is a fantastic one. He has been a beggar a rickshaw puller, an axle before that, and then an acclaimed writer. He had gone to Jaipur Lit Fest. But Morichapi Bapari had to spend long years, more than 20 long years, as a cook. And this even after he established himself as a writer. And he says that the fact that the government and the people could not find a better job for him than that of a cook in a school shows how, even though he became a celebrated writer, shows how casteist Bengali society is. Bapari is now the chairman of the Dalit Sahitya Academy in Bengal, and like I said, he's an MLA candidate from the Trinamool Congress. So it's not just the BJP that has brought caste to the fore, that is talking about caste. It is also the Trinamool Congress who has done so. This election has laid bare, like no election before this, the fact that Bengali society has been casteist. Now, I was in a talk session with a Harvard Kennedy professor, a Dalit activist, and he was very surprised when I said that a large chunk of the Dalit vote in Bengal may go to the BJP. He said that how is it that a Manuvadi party, a party that is looked at as an essentially upper caste party, has been attracting so many Dalits. And I gave him a few examples. For instance, I told him of Mr. Sunil Devdar of the BJP, who a friend of mine had met, and she had met him at an informal interaction with supporters and workers of the BJP in Kolkata some years back. In that interaction, a young BJP worker asked him that, "Sir, when will Ram Mandir be built? What can we do?" To which Mr. Devdar said, "Look, the Ram Mandir will be built when it has to be built. There are people, important people who are looking at it. What you do instead, if you really want to do something for the country, is you go back to your own village, and there you will find that on the other side of the village there are Dalit families living in a cluster. So you should go there, and out of your own free will, you should go to that cluster. You should have food with them, and you should invite them to your home to have food, and you should encourage people like you to do that. And over a period of time, you should make sure that there's no caste discrimination in your village. If you can do that, know that you have done something great for the country. Don't worry about Ram Mandir, it will be built." It's just one example. The RSS and the BJP have been over the years working in Bengal, which my research for Bengal 2021 shows that they have been working for many years among the lower castes of Bengal. It is only now that perhaps in 2019 the BJP did well from Bengal, and in 2021, if the exit polls are to be believed, they will do well again. But it's only now that they're reaping the dividends of having worked for long in Bengali society among the lower castes. But the fact remains that for many years the RSS has been working the ground, working among the lower castes, so to say. In a certain way, I read an article where they said that it's Hindutva 2.0, that the BJP has approached Bengal downside up. They have approached Bengal through the lower castes, and they have almost ignored the Bhadralos, the genteel people, the beautiful people. It is to a large extent true, and if BJP does well, as many are believing it will, it is because of this social experiment of looking at Bengali society downside up. Caste is a serious matter, and caste is a serious subject. So I think serious people who research on caste should not perhaps give such blanket statements like caste does not exist in Bengal. Yes, we didn't for a while ask each other in a tea stall, "What's your caste?" But that did not necessarily mean that we did not discriminate on the basis of caste. I think now that caste has come to the forefront, we need to address this issue. We need to talk about this issue, and in going ahead, we need to see Bengali society not as a homogeneous entity, but we need to examine every strata of society, and we need to remember that Bengal is not a one city state. There is a Bengal beyond Kolkata. We need to go out, we need to see how people think, how they need to feel, and once we do that, perhaps we'll be able to analyze things better and not suddenly wake up to the fact that there is caste in Bengal.